Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no.
If Australia is Satan's sandbox, then the Amazon is its older brother raised by Brazil's Snake Island and tutored by the Darien Gap while babysat by the Serengeti. The land of felony deer and eight-legged landlords is a country club compared to the largest rainforest and factory of nonsense on the planet. Because Australia is not that bad for what its reputation is, and for the most part, discernment and common sense will keep you in present tense. But also the Amazon would take Australia's lunch money. This is a jungle that has swallowed cities, animated nightmares, and even Charles Darwin was naturally selected as a tribute to the forest. Allegedly. The Amazon is a living bullet hell from top to bottom, but the most dangerous animals in it, and the ones most likely to leave you full-time horizontal, will surprise you. And what better way to start than with the actual king of the jungle?
Jaguar, I respect it. I respect it.
The Jaguara, the cat whose name means he who kills with one leap. Fitting, because this cat is a walking one-shot, and arguably one of the most unfair apex predators out there. They can swim better than any big cat ever should. They can also climb, and these talents they'll combine to rain absolute pain on the food chain. Jaguars are the third largest cat, and the biggest you'll find in America. But pound for pound, no other cat bites harder. Thanks to a wide skull packed with masseter muscles and a shorter jaw for more crushing leverage, a motivated jaguar is said to have a bite force 7 times its own body weight, outclassing their carnivorous counterparts. The bull shark of the big cats has a bite that can break through a sea turtle's carapace, which they regularly prey on. They also flatline caiman, thanks to the jaguar's habit of going for the back of the head. It's a hell of an attitude adjustment, one that can penetrate the skull and pierce the brain and leave a caiman anything but okay. So safe to say, you'd have no chance if John Whiskers decided to make you a memory. Victims of jaguar attacks all have one thing in common, and it's that they all look like they were mauled.
What's your favorite big cat, bro? Mine personally, mine personally is a black jaguar, you feel me? What's your favorite big cat, though? Yeah.
By a claw hammer. In 2010, a 17-year-old was returning from a fishing trip when a jaguar exploded out of a ravine and jumped onto the boat, knocking both into the water before resurfacing with the teen's head in its mouth. A bystander fended the cat off with an iron pipe, and somehow the teen survived despite devastating head trauma, memory loss, and bone fragments from his skull nearly piercing his brain. In 2008, a jaguar wandered into an open tent and mauled the 21-year-old inside to death, with his body found with fatal damage to his spinal cord. Jaguars are the Amazon equalizer, and what many people would fear most in the jungle, but the humbling part is, they could easily do way worse. Out of all the big cats, it's jaguar attacks that are the least likely, other than snow leopards, and they live on heaven's driveway. From 1950 to 2025, there have been only 84 recorded jaguar attacks on people in the Brazilian Amazon, with 13 deaths that we know of. Not only is that a little more than one attack a year, many incidents involve hunters flanked by hunting dogs. Most people that have run into a wild jaguar will tell you they're more likely to barely acknowledge you and just keep it pushing. This is an apex predator that actively avoids us. And for good reason. Considering humans nearly wiped them out and they're only just starting to come back to the United States, we're definitely what this brolic big cat has nightmares about. And while none of that's any solace if you do get pressed by a jaguar, there's actually much worse things to encounter in the Amazon than a leopard that lifts. For example, you'll probably never hear a sound like that in the Amazon. But if you do, you may never hear anything ever again, because a gang of giant river otters can absolutely cancel you. One alone can grow to 6 feet long and is tough enough to square up with a jaguar, but an army of arañas is like a high-functioning water wolf pack. These giga otters will also victimize caiman, with scientists watching a pack of fur piranhas eviscerate a 5-foot caiman to nothing. No bones, no skull, just a former concept, in under 45 minutes. Giant otters are built like a bad trip, with eyes that could win a staring contest with the void, but just like with jaguars, it's actually their cousins that do more damage. Despite local legends of giant otters capsizing canoes and tearing the canoeists to shreds, this bug-eyed breaststroking abomination mostly eats fish and rarely comes into contact with people. There's no case of a wild giant otter authoring a human obituary, and if one did, it would likely be defensive. But God help you if you offend otters enough for that, because this man showed what the consequences could be. Because after rescuing a child that had fallen into the otter den at a zoo, Sergeant Silvio Hollenbach was swarmed and mauled by a family of enraged otters, which ultimately killed him.
What?
what the consequences could be, because after rescuing a child that had fallen into the otter den at a zoo, Sergeant Silvio Hollenbach was swarmed and mauled by a family of enraged otters.
Yo, bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Getting the belt laid to you by an otter is crazy work, my nigga. I ain't gonna bid, bro. That's tough.
Which ultimately killed him.
Bro, then they got like the little mouths, like the kind of like the super sharp little teeth, so I know that shit was slow and it hurt. Oh, shit.
Fact is, it was likely in defense of recently born otter pups. So just like a jaguar, this is an apex predator.
Right now I could take on a whole fucking whole lineage of otters right now. I guarantee you that.
That's more likely to ignore you than gore you. But it's always best to respect a creature that can put a jaguar in reverse with no key. Which is why you should be more afraid of the giant anteater. The ultimate sleeper build, because the same claws they use to break into termite mounds can easily tuck you in for a permanap. And when you realize termite mounds are built like concrete, then you'll realize that I lied. A 7-foot feather duster is something a jaguar has to worry about. Giant anteaters have killed jaguars, and they have a human body count too. In 2012, a 47-year-old hunter approached an anteater head on, as if he didn't take the animal seriously. The anteater slashed his thigh and bled him to death. 2 years earlier, an anteater attacked,
hit that artery, my boy. He hit that artery. That's tough.
Defended itself against another hunter and killed him after severing his femoral artery. A homicidal panda.
Huh? You see what I'm saying? Like, you know, unlike over there on the Abnormal channel, y'all watch Muck Reacts over here. Y'all gonna learn some shit over here, you feel me? I really teach y'all motherfuckers some shit, bro. I really teach y'all some shit over here. Y'all niggas need to tap in over here. I really know some shit. I really put y'all niggas on game this shit, you feel me? Niggas don't, you see what I'm saying? Listen to the man, I told you.
Against another hunter and killed him after severing his femoral artery. A homicidal panda-armed vacuum cleaner is not a joke. The first red flag is being anything that comfortable in the presence of a predator. But the reason I'd be more nervous around a termite terminator than a jaguar is the predator paradox. Remember, with predators, you gotta earn their concern. Unless cubs are involved, otters won't bother, and jaguars are big enough to not care. But a legally blind Freddy Krueger steroid sloth will bleed you the first time you look like a threat. And they don't get safer in captivity, because in 2007, a zookeeper was gored so badly, she had to get her leg amputated in an operation that ultimately killed her. You're gonna learn that you fear the prey more than the predator, which is why it's surprising that arguably the jaguar's most feared prey is an animal you probably wouldn't think of. You're screwed if you get pressed by peccary. Not just because they have tusks that can emancipate your insides, because they roll in packs too and will defend each other. 300-pound jaguars have.
You expect me to believe a jaguar's biggest op is a fucking pig, my nigga? Yo, what are we talking about, bro? What are we talking about, bro?
Driven up the trees by murder swine, and from this video you can see they'll deliver that same smoke to people. This is the mammal that scares me the most in the Amazon.
Oh shit, yo, them niggas deep as fuck. I ain't gonna hold you. These niggas came deep as shit, bro. Pause.
300-pound jaguars have been driven up the trees by murder swine, and from this video you can see they'll deliver that same smoke to people. This is the mammal that scares me the most in the Amazon, because if you see one, you know many more will follow. People have found dead jaguars with stab wounds, but surrounded by hooves.
What do y'all think the worst animal to die to is, bro? What's the worst animal to get put on a hearse by, bro? Like, most painful. You feel me? The most painful animal to die from? Piranhas, right, bro? I'm thinking piranhas, bro.
That pretty much tells you how the cat went out. Not only is this not a pig likely responsible for gun laws in certain states, it's arguably the worst mammalian jump scare in the jungle. But the most dangerous is an animal you may not have even considered, unless you live there. Because in a study interviewing over 120 people, more than 40% have been attacked by a vampire bat. Only 20 people, more than 40% have been attacked by a vampire bat. Only 3 species regularly feed on blood, but the common vampire bat specializes in bleeding mammals. Usually that means seals and livestock, but opportunity can bring them right to humans. The first known outbreak of human rabies transmitted by bats was
Y'all niggas think, yeah, so you know what? We just gonna get it started tonight. We just gonna hand them out tonight. But we handed them out tonight. I don't give a fuck, bro. We handed them out tonight. I got time today, bitch.
In 1930s Trinidad, where up to 90 people died. In 2005, there were 55 human rabies cases caused by bats.
Damn.
This is up from the 46 in 2004.
Yo, is there a cure for rabies? I don't think there's a cure for that shit.
Rabies cases caused by bats, which was up from the 46 in 2004. Since the 1930s, it's estimated that over 1,000 people have died to vampire bat-assisted rabies, with the bulk being in Brazil and Peru. Now, bats already get a lot of shit, and I feel bad for even contributing to it. Just keep in mind that typically less than 1% of bats in an area may have rabies at any given time, and they're only really a problem in places with difficult access to medical attention, like the Amazon. But there's also a chance bats being more dangerous is only thanks to us. One species was said to only bleed birds like guan and tinamous, but with their natural prey driven out by human activity, they started resorting to people, with a 2016 study finding human blood in bat samples. Mind you, before it was thought that these bats would rather starve than drink mammalian blood. Bats have an unfair reputation for what they do for the world. Without them, we wouldn't have chocolate or tequila. But it'd also be
The fuck do bats have to do with chocolate and tequila?
a lie if I said the chances you fall asleep outside and get your blood assets drained aren't zero. In their defense, the mammals of the Amazon are only responsible for a fraction of the life retirements. Well, most of the mammals.
That's tough
Wink,
shit.
wink. But it's the reptiles that are more infamous. And no reptile displays the insanity of the Amazon more than the caiman. I feel so bad for the caiman. It seems evolving on a winning team only led to them getting bodied. They get their wigs split by jaguars, and can get mauled by otters, squeezed to a flat line by anaconda, and electrocuted by an animal that has no business having that power. When they're small, they can get attack on tightened by heron, or ravished by rodents. And when they finally get big enough, caiman earned the ire of the most dangerous predator of all time. Caiman got dropped into hardcore server and have been getting curb stomped by the jungle census since. Except there's one caiman this doesn't really apply to. The black caiman can grow to 16 feet long, weigh over 1,000 pounds, and an adult would not take this crap from a jaguar. In fact, in the land of apex predators, the black caiman might be the apex predator, as many locals fear them more than any jaguar, otter, or eel. Since 2014, there have been 66 caiman attacks with 19 deaths, with most occurring near fishing sites. And while most of these attacks are defensive or straight up provoked by people, the scariest thing is their personalities. Caiman in areas where they've historically been hunted are shy and super people avoiding. But in other areas, people will tell you that they'll attack anything that moves. And I promise you're not ready for how powerful the biggest member of the alligator family can be. Just the force of their tail can shatter your knee with a well-aimed swing. But unlike crocodiles, caiman don't really have the reputation for becoming man-eaters, and like others, a majority of their victims are fish. And again, it's another example of humans being the real monsters. Because the black caiman was nearly poached into extinction for its hide, so bad that it led to the explosion of the capybara and piranha that were being kept in check, which ironically would only bite humanity right in the agriculture. But there's one reptile that has a reputation worse than the caiman, and it's... This trigger warning is only because my mom's afraid of snakes, and if you're like her, go to this timestamp. Last warning, because the other side of this trigger warning is the biggest snake on the planet. Not the longest, that would be the reticulated python, but the heavyweight title goes to the green anaconda. Now the anaconda is actually the animal victim to the most egregious size exaggerations of any animal, but most agree a female can reach the neighborhood of 20 feet long and violate the scales at nearly 550 pounds.
That shit is crazy.
You probably know
bro.
the anaconda life deprived with an existing ending embrace, but it's not the suffocation that does you,
Nigga
it's the
said
fact
an
that they squeeze so tight, your heart can't pump against the pressure, and any blood flow to the brain gets blocked. Not to mention, backwards facing teeth make it impossible to escape custody. An adult Amazonian anaconda is another apex predator, one that can swallow virtually anything, thanks to jaws that don't unhinge but actually stretch to accommodate, and a windpipe they can shove out of their mouths to breathe through like a meat snorkel. So Stevie Wonder could see how Titanoboa's little brother could easily void a human. But there is a catch. Human shoulders are the #1 reason most snakes aren't physically capable of swallowing a human, and even if they are, it is very, very rare for one to try, let alone succeed. And even though the biggest anacondas probably could, there are 0 cases of one ever eating a person. Let me say that again. It's never happened that we know of. People have been struck by condas, but the animal that eats like 5 times a year and then spends the
You expect me to believe this nigga ain't never ate a motherfucker? Shut the fuck.
the rest of it on power save mode definitely is doing it at a defense. Meaning if a paraplegic dragon bites you, you probably did something. I get it, but this is not the snake.
Make the song ascendant, and I know I don't have a beat, but you know, yeah, make this shit send it in. Send the open verse, you feel me?
To be afraid of in the Amazon. That would be, look, snakes have a worse PR than bats, so I don't even want to do them like that. But if you see a pit viper in a cut, pick a higher power and start a conversation. There's a lot of venomous snakes in the Amazon, and the most infamous is the common lancehead, or the fer-de-lance. Out of all the venomous snake bites in the Amazon, the common lancehead is responsible for up to 90%. Between 2012 and 2021, the number of common lancehead bites was 202,604, with 766 deaths. And I'm gonna link the study that said it in the description because I read it and I don't believe it. Lancehead venom isn't just toxic, it's designed to murk prey fast so the snake doesn't have to track them. The venom attacks tissues and blood cells and causes them to lyse and burst, instigating internal hemorrhaging while also blocking blood clotting with anticoagulants to keep you bleeding. And it happens fast. One 10-year-old girl was bit, and even with relatively quick medical attention, she still had to get her leg amputated.
Define relatively quick. Cause you know, the Ambalam, you feel me? They asked to tell you they got there in under 30 minutes, and that's relatively quick. I got 6 holes in my chest, my nigga. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, bro. Define relatively quick.
10-year-old girl was bit, and even with relatively quick medical attention, she still had to get her leg amputated. Another girl was struck, likely by a fer-de-lance, and the venom turned her leg into a black stick. You can look it up if you want. I'm sure as hell not going to show it here, but a black stick tinted green. That is what her leg was reduced to. Now, what cost her leg was the fact that she was originally treated with traditional medicine and not brought to a clinic until a month later. Most times, with immediate medical, a majority of bite victims end up making a full recovery. And the fact that most bites end up being dry explains the low bite to death ratio. But it's when you get envenomated in an area of difficult or remote access that you're basically a walking corpse. The sad part is, snakes don't want to resort to using venom unless they think their life is in danger. In fact, most times the snake will bite at you instead of biting you. But lanceheads often hunt rats in coffee or banana plantations, which can lead to a double-edged jump scare for them and the farm workers. So while everyone's scared of Satan's weighted jump rope, it's a snake you don't see that should scare you. Also, honorable mention to the Bushmaster. With a name like that, you are not to be played with. You got it. But it's not just the venomous occupants that'll fold you. The poisonous ones will get you too. And the Amazon has the most poisonous animal on the planet. And the fact that it's a tiny skittle of a frog is the second biggest you of the forest. The same caustic hermit that could sleep comfortably on a quarter has enough toxins to one-shot 20 people, 20,000 mice, and 2 bull African elephants. There are no elephants in the Amazon. This thing's built like a biblical punishment. The poison dart frog got its name from indigenous hunters rubbing their arrow tips on the frog's back. If you were to get injected, at best the batrachotoxin would cause numbness and nausea. At a higher concentration, the poison that runs interference between nerves would cause paralysis, convulsions, and even seizures. Any higher, and the paralysis of the diaphragm and heart failure would cause suffocation, cardiac arrest, and death. To add insult to permanent inactivity, it's not even their poison they're packing. That is a stolen bag. The amphibian poison pill gets it from the beetles they eat and open carries the chemical.
So these niggas just steal every... Alright.
To my knowledge, a poison frog hasn't directly packed up a person, but recently Russian opposition Alexei Navalny
getting
was
smoked by a frog,
by,
bro.
Yeah, poison frog poison. So on the list of animals to fear in the Amazon, rancid rabbits are pretty low. Mostly because their dress code is a literal red flag, along with green, gold, and all the others. Getting in the water is different, because you'd likely never see it coming. So what is the scariest fish in the Amazon? Because there are a lot of options. The arapaima is a several hundred-pound armor-plated Jurassic guppy that can easily turn your lights off. Bull shark is a several hundred-pound armor-plated Jurassic guppy that can easily turn your lights off. Bull sharks are considered the most aggressive shark species and the closest to the stereotype, and they've been known to venture up the Amazon. And while they're not as unhinged as their reputation is, and attacks in rivers are super rare, murky river water is the best place to become a shark statistic. And the pacu has human teeth and has been nicknamed the ball cutter. No further comment, but the most
Comment further, please.
pacu has human teeth and has been nicknamed the ball cutter. No further comment. But the most infamous fish in the Amazon is the candiru, and they're the reason people say you should never pee in the waters. Because according to legend, the parasitic pin needle will follow the urine up your urethra, where they get lodged up there with their backwards facing spines. Think of the anaconda's jaws, but clamped inside the most sensitive part of your body, and allegedly, only invasive surgery can remove it. But in all of humanity,
What?
sensitive part of your body, and allegedly, only invasive surgery can remove it. But in all of humanity's history, there has been only one recorded case of such a fate, with one man in 1997 claiming that a kangaroo jumped out of the water, swam up his pee stream, and into him. Yet science has proven that not only is that physically impossible, like fluid physics, it has also been proven that kangaroo aren't even attracted to human urine. The piranha is another fish with bad PR, but we now know that they're mostly shy scavengers that also eat plants. You could sit in a pool of feeding piranhas and, like a toddler's vegetables, likely go untouched. Now, attacks do happen, and headlines can be something out of a horror movie, but they're rare and usually only in times of extreme environmental stress and shallow water. Also, the whole piranha flesh stripping a cow thing was actually a psyop staged by locals to impress President Theodore Roosevelt. You're much more likely to accidentally eat a piranha than the other way around, and even the papu's ball-biting reputation has been greatly exaggerated. So what's the scariest fish in the Amazon? It's definitely the one that's less eel than fish. The electric eel is actually a knife fish related to a catfish, but is closer to an aquatic taser. The fact that there's a fish that's just up and weaponized electricity and we just all accept that as a fact of life is the third biggest middle finger the Amazon has to offer. And at 8 feet up to 40 pounds, this imitation eel has killed people. But it's not the electricity you worry about. It's getting knocked out in water and drowning knee deep. It's also the fact they can jump out of the water to tase you, which a scientist discovered by accident when he tried transferring one into a new aquarium, and nearly got fried in the process. Not to mention, 8 feet of not an eel can have all their vital organs packed into 20% of their body. The remaining 80 is reserved for electric organs. This is one of those things you blindly accept as a kid, only to severely question the existence of as an adult. So we went through mammals, reptiles, fish, and amphibians. That only leaves the most dangerous group of all. Kinda. Because spiders aren't insects, but damn it, they're going in this section. Oh, yep, spider warning. Sorry. Goliath bird-eating spiders are the largest tarantulas in the world. The funny thing is, they rarely prey on birds, but the naming guy made damn sure you don't forget they can. They mostly go for rats, frogs, lizards, sometimes snakes, and they do this by paralyzing prey with venom and then liquefying their insides with enzymes to turn the prey into soup. But as that one weird spider apologist that refused to kill them as a kid, I gotta say that tarantulas are virtually harmless, with venom no worse than a wasp sting, and they've never killed a human. The most dangerous thing about them is that they're terrified of humans and will flick highly irritating hairs into your face as defense, and those hairs are absolute hell if they get in your eyes. And as intimidating as a Goliath might be, they're like a soft-shell lobster to a coati. And people too, because the tarantula is considered a delicacy. Now this spider is a different ballgame. The Brazilian wandering spider is responsible for thousands of bites a year, with an estimated
How much I gotta get paid to eat a tarantula, bro?
40,000 occurring annually in its namesake country. Like the tarantula, they're also afraid of people and lash out defensively. The problem is, they also hide in dark crevices, which leads to a mutual jump scare from people. They have an especially bad habit of finding themselves inside shipments of bananas. There was one time a store in Austria was shut down for several days after one spawned out of a banana crate like a jack-in-the-box. Appropriate response, because the Brazilian Antichrist venom has a lot of effects: paralysis, trouble breathing, but the most infamous side effect is that envenomation can cause a painful, several-hour case of priapism. Now Google priapism and you'll understand why this is the #1 middle case of priapism.
Cryopism? The fuck is that? The fuck is that? Hold on, we're gonna look this up, hold on. Wait, I already forgot what the fuck I'm looking.
Side effect is that envenomation can cause a painful, several-hour case of priapism. Now Google priapism and you'll understand why this is the #1 middle finger of the rainforest. One that can end your baby-making career permanently. But even with thousands of recorded bites a year, there have been less than 20 deaths recorded since the 1900s. Mostly because, again, animals don't love to waste venom, and most bites are dry.
I'm fucking retarded. Priapism, bro. Okay, let's see. Based on a rare medical emergency defined as prolonged, often painful erection that lasts more than 4 hours without sexual stimulation and is caused by trapped blood, often stemming from sickle cell disease. What the fuck?
Even if they aren't, with anti-venom, you're almost guaranteed to be fine. That being said, you better have anti-venom. I love Die Hard, not enough to live it. That being said, I'd take a spider over a centipede. The Amazonian variety is the largest on the planet, and they punch way above their weight class, with a prey list that can include birds, bats, and rats. Centipedes like this can submit prey 15 times their size with paralyzing neurotoxic venom. And it is no exaggeration, one of the most painful bites a human being can experience. It probably won't kill you, and that's not as a favor to you. There's at least one case of a centipede subtracting a person, and it was when a Venezuelan child opened a soda can and was mortally wounded by the crawly hidden inside. That does raise one hell of a question though. Would you rather take a bite from a centipede or stings from bullet ants? How it got its name is pretty straightforward, but its indigenous name translates to the one who wounds deeply, as well as 24-hour ant, because you're scheduled for 24 hours of agony and untold suffering once you get bit. Entomologist Justin Schmidt has described a sting as less like a gunshot and more like walking over flaming charcoal with 3-inch nails stuck up your foot. The ants are even used as a rite of passage for the Setere Mawe people, with those initiated having to wear a glove of these piss ants for some time, all while being lit up by the insects. It's a process that can cause temporary paralysis and hallucinations, and the process is done not once, but up to 20 times. It's a different level of pain, but one that's not lethal, as bullet ants have never killed a person. Yeah. So as unpleasant as a run-in with a wandering spider, centipede, or ant army would be, those aren't the bites you fear the most. This is. Cause the kissing bug is statistically one of the deadliest animals in the Amazon, with a worldwide kill rate of over 10,000, with over 7 million people infected. And it's because the assassin bugs can spread a parasite that delivers Chagas disease, a parasite they spread through their poop. Once you accidentally rub the infected feces into a bite wound, you've been got, and you often don't realize it until you wake up looking like you lost an argument to Mike Tyson. It's an uncomfortable, unsightly disease, one that erases tens of thousands of lives in the Amazon, including, allegedly, Charles Darwin. It's highly suspected that the long-time 40-year illness and eventual demise of the father of evolution was caused by a one-time run-in with a kissing bug and the development of Chagas that came after. By the numbers, that makes this bug one of the deadliest creatures in the jungle. But not number one. That spot goes to the deadliest animal of all time. The animal you should fear the most isn't a jaguar, anaconda, caiman, or even unethical Viagra. It's the mosquito. The mosquito has buried more people than every single war in human history combined. And it's no different in Earth's biggest jungle, as Anopheles darlingi has killed untold numbers of people, as largely the biggest vector of malaria, along with other maladies like dengue, yellow fever, and even Zika. I consider them so dangerous because there's no confusion if a jaguar or viper bites you, but mosquito bites can easily go under the radar until you wake up to the Grim Reaper on your nightstand. And the worst part is, mosquitoes could easily be way worse. One, because only females suck blood, but also because out of the thousands of species, mainly 3 are responsible for census cuts on humanity. One adjustment by them and they could possibly wipe us out, but again, it might be our own fault they're so dangerous, as deforestation has boosted the number of bites, and those same deforested areas can have biting rates 278 times the normal. And that's why it's humans that are tied for the most dangerous animal in the Amazon. It's been said that deforestation has killed 500,000 people in the last 20 years, with nearly 30,000 a year attributed to heat stress. But human-caused deaths can be even more direct, as over 1,700 activists have been murdered in the Amazon between 2012 and 2021, while trying to prevent activity like mining, oil drilling, and logging. That's more than the deaths due to jaguars, anacondas, caiman, venomous snakes, and spiders combined. So no, I'm not just being edgy when I say one of the most life-threatening things you can run into in the world's most dangerous jungle is another human. And most of those murked were indigenous activists fighting for their land. Now keep in mind, it was also humans that nearly drove the caiman out of commission, a panther into past tense, and many, many more. As for the Amazon, it is as dangerous as it is beautiful, and the animals in it are really only doing what they can to survive, and both are worthy of our respect and fear, because the most terrifying thing about them is the reality of a world where they're not here.
Damn. Ah, fuck no. What the fuck? This is some aka the Snake Ninja, a Brazilian activist and conservation, is famous for putting poisonous and venomous animals in his mouth to raise awareness and protest against. That's insane work. What I just like. That's insane. I can't believe that. I'm not gonna lie. Shout out my nigga Casual Geographic.